Hi everybody, it's Rabid here for Unbreakable Gamers. Making this video today, different reason, if you can see on the screen here. 22nd of April 2017, which is this month, 5 days from the time I'm making this video. The CRAFTAU StarMade server is getting shut down. Now, this has brought up a bit of discussion on the reasons of why and such. The CRAFTAU staff have given some very good reasons of why it is being shut down. But I'm here to try and elaborate on some of those things for the sakes of the developers. I was going to do a forum post, but I thought it would be much easier to just do a video so people can hear my tone of voice, get context of what I'm saying, because it is lost when you're on forums. So hopefully this helps. If I don't answer any question here or you need some further clarification, feel free to ask in the forums and I will try and answer. This is probably a lazy way of doing it, but it's been a long weekend. I've had a lot of work on and I'm very tired, so this was just simpler than typing out a wall of text. Anyway, I'll try and keep it brief. I want to try and keep this video short, no guarantees, but I'll try and dedicate at least 5 minutes to each topic that's been mentioned. Anyway, for clarification, I am on a i5-3570K processor, 32 gigabytes of RAM, 16 gigabytes of which are dedicated to StarMade, and I have a Galax GDX 970 video card, which is a 4 gigabyte video card, or 3.5.5 if you want to go there. So yeah, here we are on the CRAFTAU server, and there's my station. I'll use a few things for some visual highlights here. The first thing I want to cover is the power issue. There's been talk about the power rebalance that's been planned being one of the main issues. Now, that is in regards, because I'm not just going to go over why CRAFTAU is shutting down, I'm going to go over why StarMade in general is losing players and cover the main highlights of what is wrong from what I've gathered from speaking to people who run servers, as well as people who, just gamers, the players. I speak to a lot of people from various aspects of the community. I used to be a former senior moderator on the CRAFTAU server. I no longer am. I'm not here in any official capacity for CRAFTAU. And I just wanted to get that out of the way before we got started. That I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody but myself, and just giving my impressions from discussions I have had. Anyway, back to the subject. So power. The power balance is an issue at the moment because if you've seen my ship over here, the Ghost, it's a UNSC Paris class frigate from Halo. I've uploaded to the community content section of the StarMade docs. I go into this a bit in the details of the ship's description in that box, that I uploaded the ship, but it's just the hull. There is no internals on it. I have actually since then tried to kit out the inside because I do want to make the ship very detailed. The reason why is because this was originally the ship that I built, one of the first ships I built in StarMade many years ago. And the problem there was we went through a power rebalance and it completely balked the power systems up. They increased the power cap, but while increasing the power cap from 1 million to 2 million, the power in every other way sort of became screwed up. So a ship like this that was perfectly balanced just wouldn't run. If I had a lot of thrust, I had everything to make the game, the ship, sort of just what I would consider the specs according to Halo canon and facts. And it was a great ship. But then the power balance came out. I've had to remove the rear wings and a whole bunch of other things because it's advanced armor, because they added mass affecting everything as well on the blocks, because advanced armor used to weigh the same as basic hull. But everybody had to redesign their ships, and it wasn't always effective. Many people like myself with these bigger ships had to resort to these dock generators, which were a docked entity that provided power through beams to the ships. And that sort of worked, except for the issue of, we all know that with this game, docked entities coming off the ship cause clipping issues. I mean, you don't want generators docked on the outside, so they don't come away clean. I mean, even turrets that are on the outside can cause problems. So Shine has tried to fix this in some ways, because they disabled the use of generators, so we were all back to square one, and it was quite frustrating. Now we understand, early access game, there's going to be bugs, there's going to be rebalances and things, but there have been a lot of things that have been fixed, like the power, that not necessarily have been fixed in a good way or have had much thought to it. Now it has come up, there's another discussion about the power. I mean, they brought out this auxiliary power, and that in a way is a solution, apart from it being an explosive block. it was sort of something. The problem there is they brought in AI fleets, and unfortunately the AI cannot use auxiliary power. So if I want to have a fleet of ships like this, the auxiliary power is useless. It's just going to end up being extra weight on the ship that the AI cannot use. So therefore we're back to square one. It's hard to get the balance of the power you need to use your weapons and move around and things. I mean, this ship here used to look like this one over here. In a way, the other one's obviously a much better build, more detailed and things. But you'll see I've got this big keel bit here, as my friends refer to it, the ship's genitals. And these big shoulder pads here between the thruster and the main body on top and the bottom. That was to get the blocks to where I needed them to be to power the ship. Unfortunately, it still wasn't enough. I will admit there are other systems in there as well as shields. But yeah, about half of that ship is just power alone. And it's still not enough, and it's a 500 metre long frigate. So I tried doing this one as well. I reduced the thrust on it a bit compared to the old one, so it's a lot slower than it should be. But I am still finding the same problems. I've reduced the size of weapons and things to try and balance it out, and because I want to make this one really detailed. But if I make it as detailed as I want it to be, the ship's going to be useless. I'm going to have this great big warship, and it's going to be absolutely useless because I can thrust or I can use weapons, but I can't use both. And like I said, if I use it for an AI ship in a fleet, it's even more useless. So Shine have come up and said that they're going to be redeveloping the power systems, but then there was a huge drop in players since then, and the reason why is because people are worried again, the same as me. We spent, like this ship here, I spent a lot of months of my life building that thing, and I've spent a lot of time building this one, probably more so because of how detailed it is. Excuse me, if you don't include the weapon system and times that were spent on that. I want to have corridors because we got told we're getting this AI cruise and things, but I cannot build it the way I want it to build it. I can wait till this power update comes out, but if I wait till then, the ship is going to be just sitting there. And a lot of players are like that, like me. Right now, I'm sitting in a ship core, and for the last few months when I log into the game, that's basically what I do, is I talk to other players when they are on, and I keep just flying around a ship core. And other players have admitted to me they're doing the same. They're logging in, and they're like, well, what do? I don't know what to do. But it's all up in the air. We don't know what the power system's going to be, how it's going to be. I mean, a ship like this, I should have like 4 reactors in the back or something like that. I mean, you look at blueprints of ships in both the sci-fi universe and ocean-going ships, I mean, even spacecraft on Earth, and a lot of those are basically empty space. I mean, with the exception of rockets, obviously, they've got a lot of space dedicated to fuel storage and tiny little capsules, but we're not talking about Apollo landers or Saturn V rockets. We're talking about spaceships that are the equivalent of a battleship or a destroyer, ocean-going vessels. I mean, you look at a destroyer, it has a nuclear reactor and its engines and things, but it's mostly empty compartments. Same goes for any of the Enterprises from Star Trek, for example. So people are just like, well, what's the point of building? If I build, I don't know what's going on. I could spend 6 months building my ship, I could spend a week building it, I could be spending a year, but I don't know when this power balance is going to come out, and I have to redo it. So I haven't bothered with the interior on this ship because I don't know what I'm working with. And I don't want to have a ship that's filled up with blocks in this game. You know, I want to have empty space. I want to have corridors and rooms and galleys and things. And the ships I have seen designed along those lines, they honestly aren't all that great quite often. A ship, because a player is going to go, well, the ship should be this powerful. It's not. Screw the empty space. I'm going to pack it full of systems, and yeah, they just decimate everything around them. So that's the problem with the power. People don't know what's going on. And they're going to be even less inclined to know what's going on because a lot of people don't visit forums, they don't visit official websites and things. I mean, you see people that go do bug reports on Facebook, and this is with big companies like Rockstar and Grand Theft Auto, Battlefield. I mean, a good example of this is 7 Days to Die. If you go look at their Steam page, developed by the Fun Pimps, they're another small development team. A lot of the people are bitching about there being no updates, but if you go to the Fun Pimps website, if you go to their YouTube channel, if you go to their blogs, they are releasing constant news and updates and keeping their players in the loop. It's just, And unfortunately, we haven't really got that with StarMade. We get this sort of vague references to things. We never have a rough estimation of when things are going to come out. And if we're going to put hours and hours, my Steam version of this game, I'd usually play the non-Steam version, but the Steam version of my game is about 3,000 hours in it. So, It's not like I've just played for 2 hours and gone, oh, this game sucks or anything. You know, we are committed to StarMade. So that's the big issue. We need to know what's happening with the power, and we need a definite. We need timelines and things. The second thing is probably features coming out. It's sort of feature creep. We've gone from virtually, you know, never knowing when things were coming out to a guaranteed 2-week schedule. So we've got this 2-week schedule set up, and it's never always been on time. Fair enough. Things don't always go to plan. People are understanding. You know, if you give people a rough idea, as long as you tell people that, hey, look, sorry guys, we wanted to have it out, say, by June, but we're realising now we're not going to make it. We'll try and push for another month or two, but no promises. I mean, people are going to get pissed off either way. So it's better to give people an idea of what they're working with, and then if you make it, everybody's happy. If not, they might still be a little bit pissed, but they're going to be pissed if you don't give them a timeline, you promise something, and then 2 years later that item hasn't come out. But we're getting small updates. Now, the texture update's a good example of this. The recent texture update, now, I know somebody volunteered their time for that. It didn't take away from the programming and the coding of the game. But people see that and they're going, what the hell? You know, I was one of those people. It's like, we got a new build block texture now. Not like long ago, the build block texture got changed amongst others. And I guess it does affect the coding because you've got to incorporate these textures, especially when, like the build block, they've got an animation on them. And it's like, well, that sort of stuff is beta material. That's not alpha material. The alpha is, you know, getting the mechanics of the game in place. It's making sure things work. The prettying up of the game and the little things come when you go to beta, when you're getting to pre-launch time. So a lot of us were like, what the hell? You know, why are we getting these textures? We don't need them. It's kind of like when the parsing and things came out. But then we get these features as well, and it feels like they're half-assed release. You know, teleporters came out, that's fine, but we haven't seen teleporters evolve. We haven't seen them work as they should. Yes, they will teleport you from one object to another, but they sort of haven't lived up to the potential, and we haven't really seen anything further. I mean, not to criticise, things like the turrets, when they came out, they were fine. But mind you, we've still got the old docking system in the game. Why? For CRAFTAU, when I was a moderator for it, we did a server reset, and we thought, well, it would be a good time to replace all the stations. So I went through and replaced all the turrets on every station with the new system. Now, I by myself, total time, probably 24 hours, and that was me half-assedly doing it. Used some pre-made turrets I found around, modified them as necessary. I even added some more stations to the mix to give the game better variety. I mean, the customisation of the game is good, but I have to wonder, why has this not happened yet in the base game? And other people are wondering the same. When you bring out a feature, it should be, I feel, 80 to 90% complete. It should, you know, you've got a test server, but we see features that come out and things are broken. The fleet factions and things came out. Oh, the factions, I mean, came out. Fleets came out. But the things that were broken with a lot of these things, you have to wonder, was anybody on the test server really looking for the bugs? I mean, the amount of times AI has been broken, for example, it's like, wait, did you not see that? Did nobody notice that, you know, you attack a pirate station and the pirates spawn a sector or two away, so they don't show up on navigation, and you think, oh, well, there's no pirates spawning in. Yes, it got fixed. But the AI is probably worse than it has ever been, especially when, I mean, I guess, when CRAFTAU mentions the bugs, and I've experienced this myself, being one of their former mods, and I'm sure other server admins have noticed this, that the game crashes. You can't have a game, even if it's an alpha or beta, that needs its handheld all the time. It's got to be fairly sort of stable, even if it is in early access. And so it's like, when you bring out a feature, it needs to be play tested properly. We're here to bug test with us play testers and things. So, like I said, we expect bugs, but sometimes, you know, if they're going to crash a server, and I mean, the CRAFTAU server is a good example of this. It's gone from one server reset per day, a restart, should I say, because of the memory usage of the game, to having 2 restarts a day, which also affects the statistics and everything on the game. And there's also the performance issues. Now, optimization hasn't been getting better and things, but I mean, yeah, the factions, when they came out, a lot of CPU problems. We had a lot of network issues. And people, if they jump on the game and they're getting network issue messages every 2 seconds, massive lag and stuff, they're going to go, well, bugger this, I'm going to go play something that does work. But yeah, I mean, this is sort of highlighting where it's going, that the game seems to be, I don't know, poorly managed, or the development, I mean, means it seems to be poorly managed, and there doesn't seem to be any direction. Half the time we don't know what's going on, what to expect, and then when we do get the things that we're promised, usually a long time after they're promised, I mean, there's a lot of content and things that it might be coming, but I'm going to get to that too, because that's the third thing, is gameplay. So yeah, gameplay-wise, I think I've seen somebody from one of the current Craft AU staff say something about you spinning your rims, dog, in maybe a bit of a slang way of putting it. And that's exactly how it feels. That we jump on to the game, and while some things have advanced, it's more of the same. We're not seeing anything new. We're not seeing gameplay. It's still build, mine, kill AI. That will crash a server if you do, because it'll just keep spawning them if you particularly go farming stations. So it makes farming AI hard. Heat seekers will attack anything and everything, usually turrets, but it's things like that. You know, docked entities are a problem. They come off too easy, and it's always going to happen as long as heat seekers go straight for whatever part of it is of docked entities. I'm guessing it's something to do with the docker or the rails. And again, clipping issues. As far as being an admin goes, it's a very big problem to constantly stay on top of the issues, especially when a lot of the bug reporting, I mean, it's trial and error working out half the time. The lag meter doesn't work. You have moderators come along and go, hey guy, you're lagging the system, and you're sitting there just twiddling your thumbs. It's someone else in another part of the galaxy that's doing it. But the gameplay hasn't changed. And we get new bugs, and like I said, the game now is more optimised, but in many ways it's not, because, yeah, we're getting more downtime from restarts. And it's like, come on guys, you know, it's been 4 or 5 years now, and the game is still essentially what it was a few years ago, aside from visually. I mean, we've still got this massive universe, probably one of the biggest universes in any game out there, AAA or otherwise, and there's nothing to go and see. There's nothing to explore. You're bringing out new planets, but it's like, okay, you're bringing out these new planets. Well, we've had disk planets, then we've had the current, you know, hexagon or pentagon-sided planets like over here. But apart from mining them, that's it. There's nothing to do. You can't build bases on them because of the issues that happen from people, you know, because people want to leave their ships and things undocked and clipping. Yep. That some of those issues of the crossovers and things got done, but now we're getting new planets once again. But it's like, what are we going to do on those planets? Are we going to have any animals to go find? Are we going to be able to build bases without crashing servers on them? You know, dock ships on them? That sort of thing. It's like we just keep getting the same thing over and over with slightly more polish. I mean, the fleets getting added was great, but we can't do anything with them. They just fly through space. And that again brings up the whole half-assed releases. That, you know, the fleets came out, and again, testing on the test server, you know, I would like to volunteer, but again, I don't have time to do this sort of thing. But if I was testing and I was committed to it, I'd be going, hey guys, you know, I noticed I was building a ship near some AI systems, and I'm getting these ships flying through, smashing into my ship. It keeps knocking my hull flying, you know, and if you're not docked. They got fixed afterwards, but now the ships fly towards you and they just stop. So you end up with a pile of ships next to your new station or ship, and they just stop and do nothing. You know, where it should have been, okay, this isn't working. It's sort of like releasing content for the sake of it, and I can understand that point of view. And I think the power balance talk has said that it's sort of like slowing it down and thinking about things before you do them. But again, it's just too slow. We've had other games, Imperium, Space Engineers, just to name two, that have come out since StarMade were released, and they're quite obviously inspired by StarMade. But the thing is, they have bugs like StarMade, because we get people going, oh, early access this and game development. Well, you know, a good example, I'm 42 years of age. I'm a first-generation gamer. I played Space Invaders at the arcades on a, you know, arcade cabinet. I have done playtesting for many years, as have a lot of my fellow players, and those on Craft AU and stuff. We're long-time gamers. I used to playtest before it was called early access, and we actually pay for the right. No, companies used to approach us and ask us to play test games for them. and they would listen. It wasn't listening to everybody on a forum and trying to make them all happy. The developers had a vision and they sort of stuck to it, and the playtesters and the gamers were there to help sand off the rough edges. But that's the biggest complaint, is you've got a video game, but the gameplay is lacking, and that's what people want. They want to play a game, they want to have fun, and they want variety, they want things to do. And everybody I talk to has the same gripes. I get on, and it's like, oh, I'll go mine some asteroids, I'll go mine a planet, I'll go kill some buggy AI, but I've got to be careful because otherwise I'll have an admin turn up and say, hey, cut that shit out, you're crashing the server. What's happening on one side of the universe affects everybody else, even though it's like, well, I'm not in their system, I'm 2,000 kilometres away, but what they're doing is impacting me. But we've seen, and as I said, we've seen other games that have come out after StarMade, and in a less amount of time they're more polished, and before anybody says anything, they also have small development teams. As they've gone along, because they're selling their game instead of giving it away, they're getting the money that's needed to hire the people who know what they're doing. I think a short while ago I see Space Engineers was like, hey, here's this new guy, we hired him to help with some of the issues with Unity because we didn't know what the hell we're doing. So yeah, I mean, there's just so many things wrong with the game that you can't. There's only so long people can have patience with it, especially where you've got people like me, hardcore gamers, that have a lot of patience, understand exactly how early access and game development works. And if we're losing patience, the more casual players are definitely going to lose patience with it. If you're running a server, I mean, the CRAFTAU server, it's not an issue of money. They don't need you guys to fund them. Because honestly, the StarMade server is probably the least financial game they've got going, despite the player base. You know, we're being like one of the top-ranked servers in the world, or we were until recently. It comes down to you can't host a game if you've got no players, because you get people going, oh, Shine, they don't care about their player base, blah, 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 you're getting numbers. And it's like, what game company thinks that? If you're down to 100 players and it's decreasing with each passing week, there is something definitely wrong. I'm on a multiplayer server right now. It is a multiplayer, and look, it's a Monday, it's a public holiday in here in Australia. When I was a moderator on this server, you'd have up to 26 people playing. I'm the only one here at 5:30 in the afternoon. Multiplay means multiple players. If you don't have players, you can't. It's a waste of time dedicating resources to the game. I mean, things like now, I've got a fairly powerful system. I'm moving around. Like I said, optimization is great. I know people on lower spec machines still have issues. I mean, my computer's not exactly the latest, greatest, and cutting edge. So if I undock any of my ships and start doing things, like the rest of the weapons got optimized, but there are still problems with the docked entities. And if you've a game that's focused on like combat, I mean, the only gameplay is the fun you make. And if a lot of that is combat based, and you can't have combat without crashing a server, or without everything, your frame rate dropping to 5 and everything lagging. I mean, I can get up to 900 frames per second in this game with VSync off, and that's great. But as soon as I engage some pirates or another player, that all goes out the window. Everything lags, my frame rate dies, and it's not fun anymore. And a game has to be fun. All right, you don't care about your player base, you've got to care about the game being fun. And I don't want to be critical about the game, I mean, because you've done wonderful things, especially considering you're using Java. But it's maybe time to really seriously think about what's going wrong. Work out what you want, not what the players want. Yet we're here to offer suggestions and things like that, but you don't have to listen to every idea and try and make everybody happy. Bit of common sense and logic applied. And you've got to think that, you know, if it's a multiplayer game, you need players. Even if it's a single player game, you still need people playing it. I mean, if the multiplayer is buggy and boring, single player is even more buggy and boring. There's only so much customization we can do ourselves to keep things interesting. We want, you know, simple fetch quests, that sort of thing. I mean, if I go play a game like Imperium, because somebody I noticed on the forums brought that up, Imperium, I can go to a planet, I can kill wildlife, I can raid bases. I can then turn around and ride a motorbike around. Once I get bored with that, I can go and build a spaceship. I can fly off into space. I can explore space. Here, I'm in this system now, I wipe out all the pirates and things, I move to another system, and it's the same, wash, rinse and repeat. So even things like adding variety and stations, see, we could keep the player base up by giving them new things ourselves, new stations and stuff. But after a while, the novelty wears off because, like, well, new stations, but it's just the same as all the other stations. They just look different. So it's like, yeah, to outline it, power. We need to know what the power is, how that's going to work, and it needs to change. I think the current power system would be okay, but you just need to reduce the amount of blocks we need for the sake of performance. You know, I've suggested a few times now, you know, I would honestly roll back to when the power was a 1 million cap, and I would make it so one block was, say, worth 10 blocks, but that one block took 10 times the resources to make, it weighed 10 times as much, but it took 10 times less space on your ship, and therefore you've still got the same mass, you've still got the same cost to get that same power that 10 blocks would give you. It's a quick, simple answer, I would think. If you want to make it complicated, but tell us what we're going to expect, because otherwise I can't build my ship. Other players can't build their ships. If you're going to give us AI and factions, test it. Look at the hardware on a server and say, hey, okay, CPU's under a real bad load here as this AI is going rampantly out of control, taking over the universe. And so it's causing server load, it's causing lag, network issues. We better deal with that before we release it, because you know it's there. You don't need us playtesting to find it for you. You don't need us playtesting to report it back. What it should be is you playtest something on your server when it's working at least 90% as much as you want it to be, then you release it, and then we can go, oh, okay, this is wrong, that's wrong. I mean, it's like the turrets falling off. You tell us the turrets are fixed, and we still have players going, well, no, I can't report on that at the moment. I haven't experienced it. And that's mostly because I'm just not as active in the game anymore because I'm bored. And that's what it comes really down to, is boredom. Anyway, I don't know. I mean, if you want somebody like CraftAU, because like I said, if you're starting to lose some of your bigger servers and things, that's got to be a warning sign. I really think this is make or break for this game. If you don't do a massive turnaround soon, get a direction, let your player base know what's going on, the people who test, because, hey, your play testers are just as important to the development as the developers are. You know, we're volunteering our time, and some of us, like myself, we're paying for the privilege. Might not be $10, but, you know, I've bought copies for mates and things, so I am dedicated to StarMade, but time goes on, new games come out. Early access is not an excuse. Alpha is not an excuse. It only goes so far, because it's got to be interesting. The things that get released have to work, or they've got to work as close as possible. We can't have teleporters come out and then not know when they're going to be implemented properly. You know, I can't remember the last time I went to an advanced shop and saw a shopkeeper. They'd vanished. Where are you meant to buy your weapons like sniper rifles and rocket launchers? So even if you wanted to set up, like we used to set up arenas for death matches that players could go to. But hey, if they can't get the weapons, how are they meant to shoot it out with each other? It's the little things like that. It's the big things. When planets come out, are they really going to be that much different for the game? Like, sure, I'm going to load up my game and I'm going to check it out. But if there's nothing to do with those planets, if they're just eye candy, I'm going to log out again pretty quickly. Because my time is precious as, you know, time is to the developers or anybody. I've spent thousands of hours on this game. Many of us have. And it's really time to act as a development team and say, okay, guys, here's the game plan. Sit down, work it out. Then, so here's our ideas. You know, put a roadmap out. This is what we want to do. This is what we hope to achieve. Not the occasional news here and the news there, that sort of thing. When you release a system or a rebalance, make sure it works before you release it. Test that shit to hell, for crying out loud. Because, like I said, I can't understand where a lot of these bugs come out that you're not aware of them when you release them. And it feels like, well, we've got to release something. Now, this is what I mean with the power and stuff. It's good that you're taking your time. But, you know, it's too late. If you turned around and changed your tune now, it's a bit difficult for people who've already quit to know you're doing that are no longer following the game. But you've got to when you bring out new content, it's got to be new. It's got to be something else. But we need gameplay most of all. We need gameplay, and we need it to be fun. Not, oh, I'm going to go do this thing. Is it going to completely crash the server if I do it? And honestly, I've got to say at this point, I don't think there's anything you could do. It would take a miracle, I think, to convince CraftAU to keep hosting the game. They would need to see something of a real change, but I don't even know if it's possible anymore, because I sometimes wonder that a lot of this is going to be too little, too late. It really is going to be a Hail Mary. If you guys can pull it off at this point. And I don't want to be discouraging, because we do want to see you succeed. All the players want to see you succeed. But we're having more fun doing other things. Because, like I said, we come in, we can't just sit here in a ship core floating around going, oh, well, what now? You know, I've got these great ships, I can't use them. Because I've got to worry about performance. You know, maybe even things like that. Give us a good idea of what is the optimal sizes for ships in this game. A lot of us build these big, detailed ships. Our computers can handle it. But the average person can't, that's playing on their laptop and stuff, you know, that meet the specs that you guys give. I mean, even the options, you know, most games I've got have common options, and unless you're a very technical person and do a lot of research, half these options here are confusing as hell. There are people who probably don't even have their graphics as optimised for their system as they could be, because they have no idea what half those options are. And I've suggested this before, and I'll suggest again, it might really be time to think about an engine swap. Other game developers have done it when they've realised, holy shit, maybe our original choice wasn't the best. Just don't do a Duke Nukem Forever, because you're risking becoming that Duke Nukem Forever of the building spaceship game genre. Maybe it is time to look at Unity. I think, honestly, you've taken you 5 years to get to this point. I think if you picked up Unity and started from scratch, you could have the game exactly where it is, more stable, within probably 6 months to a year. But yeah, I mean, Java is goddamn awful language for games and things. I think Minecraft's the only one that's really successfully done it. I've seen other popular games like RuneScape, for example, that have now switched to C++. Because, yeah, it's just the memory optimization. I mean, yeah, we're just running out of memory. Even if everything in the game was perfect, just even the way it just chews up memory is insane. I mean, hell, that's probably what kept me going, is the fact that I can dedicate 16 gigabytes to the game. It probably doesn't use any of all of that, but I've had 8 gigabytes dedicated to the game, and I, on the client end of things, just at my own station, not loading and unloading things all the time, I eventually run out of memory if I have the game running all day. But anyway, this video will be way longer than I was planning it to be, but I hope you can consider some of these things and take them on board. But yeah, we need to know about power. We need some gameplay, not the same shit over and over. You know, it doesn't matter if you take a turd and you polish it. We're still going to get a turd, just a shinier one. And you've got to avoid the planets becoming that if you're going to bring out new planets. Give us something to do on them. Give us proper water or something like that. Give us wildlife on them. Give us a reason to go to them, then just blow them up and mine them for resources. We'll be able to blow them up, because, I mean, hell, that's part of the thing. If you can blow up a planet now and mine the plates, how's it going to be if we've got these new spherical 3D polygon planets? You know, been looking for fauna for a while. Even, hell, I'd be happy with a space whale right now, even though I thought it was a ridiculous idea, because what have we got? Space spiders or crabs, and but they only spawn on, like, one station. Our imaginations can only take us so far after 5 years. Hey, guys. Anyway, I hope this gives you some insight. And I really do want to see this game succeed, as many of us do. But if nothing changes soon, it's not going to happen. It's just going to be, I think, you know, you've got, I think, 12 months to try and salvage this wreck at the moment. Because otherwise, yeah, you might end up having the greatest game on the planet, but you're not going to have many people playing it. And the amount of the years you've put into it, you guys deserve a payoff. But you need to earn that payoff. Well, enough of me rambling. You guys take care. I wish you all the best with StarMade. I'm going to be checking in on it frequently, but I will admit I'm not going to be playing it that much for a while. I probably won't play it at all until I see major changes to the game, that I see things that are worth coming back for. And I think you're going to find that with the majority of the player base. Come on, guys. You should be ahead of Empyrean. You should be ahead of Space Engineers. And that indie developer alpha nonsense only gets to a certain point. Get organised. Hire a manager to get you organised and give you direction. Anyway, this is Rabid. This is my views on why this game is failing when it should be succeeding. And peace out. Take care. Have fun. And I'll catch you all around. Bye-bye.